Okay, this is louder. Is it adequately loud? This is adequately loud. Aaron, you're nodding at me. Yes. Okay, cool. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You are in the beautiful memorial garden of the Writers' House, attending the Matthew Shepard memorial reading. There are lots of folks to thank. Thank you for spending this time in this space. Gwendolyn and I yesterday were talking about the fact that there are a lot of things to think about now, that we could be putting our thoughts in a lot of places, and that it also felt useful to make time for folks to gather their energy and thoughts here. And so thank you for doing that. I'm Davy Knittle. I'm the GSWS grad associate this year, and I'm a Writers' House facing person, and so we were really glad to be able to bring those two communities of folks together. Thank you, Gwendolyn, for coming up with the thought of this event. Thank you, Kathy, for supporting it. Thank you to Jessica Lowenthal, who's back there, who is endlessly doing lots of work very effortlessly to make spaces that people really need. And you're making a face at me, but you know I super appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you to Allie Katz, who ordered the food you're all eating for lunch and did lots of work to make this event possible. Thank you, Writers' House staff. And thank you to our 9 readers who have generously offered to give their time and their energy and their thoughts and their words to you. Some folks are reading original work. Some folks are reading work by others. Many folks are reading from this anthology, Blood and Tears Poems for Matthew Shepard, which, if you'd like to take a look at it, it's here. I'm going to read a short poem from this anthology just to welcome everyone, and then I'll bring up our first reader. This poem is called Book of Matthew by Elizabeth Willis. Here's a text that's mixed with others, wired into snow cone snow. What you see and what you get, a block from the Union Pacific, against a 10-mile fence of news. My great-uncle was a train man, strictly steam. He never got over the 20th century. My brother was born in Casper. The wind was a joke. A mean metal syllogism with nowhere to go. You've been indexed and written in pencil on bedroom walls, and like Shelley, writ in light, in a mind the size of a coin, conceived as memory, the beginning of sorrows. Please welcome our first reader, Tiffany Thomson.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Thomson. I'm the Associate Director at the LGBT Center. I want to welcome everyone for coming and also welcome this beautiful weather, which is really nice to have on a day like today. I always think that when weather speaks to where we want our feelings to be, it's really important. So I'm just like inviting the sun in and to kind of fill our souls today. So a piece I'm going to read is actually, it's a short little quote by Judith Butler that was sent to me when I was experiencing loss, and I thought it was really appropriate for today. So here it goes. I'm not sure I know when mourning is successful or one has fully mourned another human being. I'm certain, though, that it does not mean that one has forgotten the person or that something else comes along to take his or her place. I don't think it works that way. I think instead that one mourns when one accepts the fact that the loss one undergoes will be one that changes you possibly forever. And that mourning has to do with agreeing to undergo a transformation, the full result of which you cannot know in advance. Thank you. And next reader is Ryan Keytack.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Keytack. I'm from the College House system here at Penn. I have my copy of the Laramie Project here. For anyone who is familiar, the Laramie Project interviewed and was an ethnographic study that kind of got out there to the folks in Laramie after Matthew Shepard's passing. And this was happening while I was in grad school for theater. This is oftentimes how I respond through my art, and so I figured today I'm going to share with you probably one of the more famous passages from the Laramie Project. Aaron McKinney was found guilty of felony murder, which meant that the jury could give him the death penalty. That evening, Judy and Dennis Shepard were approached by McKinney's defense team, who pled for their client's life. The following morning, Dennis Shepard made a statement to the court. Here is some of what he said. My son Matthew did not look like a winner. He was rather uncoordinated and wore braces from the age of 13 until the day he died. However, in his all too brief life, he proved that he was a winner. On October 6, 1998, my son tried to show the world that he could win again. On October 12, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero lost. On October 12, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero died 50 days before his 22nd birthday. I keep wondering the same thing that I did when I first saw him in the hospital. What would he have become? How could he have changed his piece of the world to make it better? Matt officially died in a hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado. He actually died on the outskirts of Laramie, tied to a fence. You, Mr. McKinney, with your friend Mr. Henderson, left him out there by himself. But he wasn't alone. There were his lifelong friends with him, friends that he had grown up with. You're probably wondering who those friends were. First, he had the beautiful night sky and the same stars and moon that we used to see through a telescope. Then he had the daylight and the sun to shine on him. And through it all, he was breathing in the scent of pine trees from the snowy range. He heard the wind, the ever-present Wyoming wind, for the last time. He had one more friend with him. He had God. And I feel better knowing he wasn't alone. Matt's beating, hospitalization, and funeral focused worldwide attention on hate. Good is coming out of evil. People have said enough is enough. I miss my son, but I'm proud to be able to say that he is my son. Judy has been quoted as being against the death penalty. It has been stated that Matt was against the death penalty as well. Both of these statements are wrong. Matt believed that there were crimes and incidents that justified the death penalty. I, too, believe in the death penalty. I would like nothing better than to see you die, Mr. McKinney. However, this is the time to begin the healing process, to show mercy to someone who refused to show any mercy. Mr. McKinney, I'm going to grant you life, as hard it is for me to do, because of Matthew. Every time you celebrate Christmas, a birthday, the 4th of July, remember that Matt isn't. Every time you wake up in your prison cell, remember that you had the opportunity and the ability to stop your actions that night. I give you life and the memory of one who no longer lives. May you have a long life, and may you thank Matthew every day for it.
Hey everyone, I'm Stacey Fox. I am a junior here in the college, and as someone who has a lot of pride in my identity of living ambiguously, both through gender, performance, and sexuality, I still have to hide that person who I am when I go back home to North Carolina over the breaks. I have a lot of fear over what may happen if, someone discovers who I am, but even then, despite all that fear and knowing that, the worst could happen any day, I'm still defiant, and I'm angry at the thought that, that people could do this. But that was kind of how I came into the pieces I selected from the anthology to read here today. These pieces are angry, they are defiant against a system that is just, that will harm queer people like myself, like Matthew Shepard, like anybody who doesn't fit that norm. So the first piece that I am reading is titled Matthew by Kari Edwards. At first, a day later, filler on the late night local news. Gay male assaulted, strung up crucifix style, left to die. Now stilled, this silhouette lays in shadowed silence on cotton sheet deathbed. Fast forward, days of prayer. They say no news is good news. I never believed them. So little was said by the press until he was dead. Why did they wait for death to proclaim outrage? They must know the silence is killing us. In silence, we kill ourselves. In silence, dragged behind a pickup truck. In silence, raped by police with nightstick broom handle. In silence, paramedics let her die, afraid to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. In silence, he was outed by police, raped, reported it, then murdered by her assailants. In silence, they were all taken in isolation. In silence, my fear is never far away. In silence, they all rest eternally in my tears. The second piece that I am reading today is titled Laramie, Wyoming, 1998 by Walter Holland. Gay man beaten and left for dead, 2 are charged, for Matthew Shepard. His body, more as a scarecrow's, hoisted up on the fence like a cross, 18 hours to find its redemption. Who does it scare? Image of flesh and blood, a boy's figure strung to wood. What do we say when it's taken down? Primary motive, robbery. But we know the crime is only hate. Sentinel of that field, out there you hung to bring us back to fear and scatter all thoughts of an early harvest, but we will not run. They are the ones with minds of straw, the soulless cloth blown through by wind. They are the scavengers we rout by staying visible, by being out. And the last piece I will be reading is a poem titled Requiem by Lisa Jarnot. I am thinking of something to remember this by. A brick thrown through a window, a broken jaw, a passion, a love, a reciprocity, with no attempt to obliterate one or the other, with no difference between this man and the next. The doors to love led by the flickering of a flame, a plum orchard, a peace-loving nation. Beaten, robbed, stripped, and stabbed, the surging waters of the heart ecstatic, all-encompassing, mindful of death. That he was thrown over a bridge and drowned by a group of teenagers, that they shut their eyes and let him go. Punished by God with hurricanes, with earthquakes, with meteors, with fire. This news from a reliable source. This news, a simple enumeration of facts. He was shot in the chest. He was severely beaten with a blunt object. He was run off the road, spray painted on homes, on cars, on fences, on the signposts. This is a peace-loving nation. This news from a reliable source. That he moved west and decided that he wanted to be the mayor, shot 5 times at his desk. With this attempt to obliterate the other, with this difference between this man and the next, by one's words condemned, this is a peace-loving nation, a garden full of fallen leaves. Thank you very much. Up next, Jamie Lee Josselyn.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jamie Lee, and I work here at the Writers' House. I teach in the creative writing program, and one of the roles that I play at and around this community is I'm an academic advisor. And one of my advisees was Blaze Bernstein, who I'm sure many of you know, died earlier this year. And like Matthew Shepard, he was killed because of who he was. And so It meant a lot to me, first of all, just for all of us to be here today and to have Davy bringing us all together. And I decided to write a piece in memory of Blaze that I wanted to share with all of you. I know Blaze's parents, Jeannie and Gideon, have been, they're members of our community too. They were since Blaze moved in as a freshman here at Penn. And I know they've been in touch with Judy and Dennis Shepard in these last months. And so I'm really thinking about just this community and how close-knit we all are, but then also how it's a bigger community too. And I'm glad for that, especially now. This piece is called Unfinished for Blaze. The world around us stopped. You're still on the listserv because I couldn't delete you. Even after days or months, I can still find a version of you sitting there in your text and waiting to speak to me. A can of LaCroix, a bolognese, a painted rock, a fresh sprig of mint placed on a potted dirt cake, the good earth. These stories get frozen in time and space. I've never wished so much that I could talk to someone about fulfilling their requirements, or about institutional limitations, or subbing turkey for beef. I wanted you to meet the fellows and the fellows to meet you. There is no way to predict a story's fate. Some recipes are unfinished, but the cookbook is coming out. Your landlord is probably still mad at you. I wish I hadn't met your dog. We never read anything like you before. I tell them about you in the present tense, in classrooms, but none like the one where we met, with the bookshelves and the cushions. Last time I said hi to Josh for you. The stories that you finished were never actually done. Thank you. Our next reader is Levi Bentley.
Hey, I'm Levi Bentley. I run a reading series. I'm an artist member at Vox. I am around, but it's hard for me to think about right now what is relevant information. I wrote a poem kind of over the last 3 days, so this is very new. And I'm still trying some things out in it, so bear with me. Your story broke. It slid sideways in angles and fragments like art, realizing continually that no one is coming. Maybe you stopped fighting, and then maybe you started fighting everything, and then maybe you stopped fighting again. And maybe this all happened before you went to the desert, which seemed like it might have been an answer. A place where the wind would eat your name and you might be able to live. Definitions dissolve and recrystallize around you. Your body is a solvent that makes morality and history unravel. Incoherent, they eat themselves. Meaning gets off at one word, changes its clothes, and boards another. It's always around somewhere but fugitive. You alternatively chase it and drown your awareness because your body is at war, breaking down and reconstituting a culture that's all knotted and melting, but mostly the words are brittle and abandoned. You bum a cigarette. Often you don't speak meaningfully to anyone, although you speak constantly. You are hiding and confessing constantly. And many times no one hears either thing, coded but barely as it is. You don't try to kill yourself, but in order to get out of the narrative, you have moved out of safety. You have moved into isolation. You have perhaps sought painful people, maybe because that's what connection feels like, or maybe because outside of the regular story, everything becomes more dangerous. You were trying to get out of it, to become like a ghost seeking release from a haunting, but all of the definitions and meanings had gotten in as well, and the whole history of language was possessing and sickening. Fighting a cultural narrative, you might medicate, you might try to kill the memory. You don't have to set out to tell anyone you haven't thought of it. An insistence that you do so is garish, but it might surface again later as a black mood, as risk-taking, as throwing your body, poisoned by history, away. Finally, all it takes is someone deciding that you're lost enough, that no one will come, that they can take you. Then the story comes back and picks you up again, and you are good, and you are pure, and you are innocent once you are gone. Thank you. The next reader is Malik Muhammad.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malik Muhammad, and I serve as an associate director for the LGBT Center, and I'm blessed to see that all of you have come out today to honor Matthew Shepard. I was a child when this happened, so it did not resonate with me what this meant or what it was, but when I started doing this work, that's when I understood. I understood for my students what this meant. I understood for myself what this meant. So I'm going to read a piece for you today by Brandon Lopez, but I do want to give you fair warning. The language is a bit rough, but I think it is needed. The poem is entitled, "To Matthew Shepard, the Unwilling Representative of a Greater Issue." Beautiful boy, why do you cry? Do you feel so alone, even with friends in the sky? The moon and the stars bathe you in grace before the sun sends its rays to kiss your sweet face. You cry now in anguish, they're unsure what to do. They're all in dismay, they weep now for you. The cool autumn day, the scent of the pine, mixed in with the sagebrush, the sweet smell so fine. The wind that is carried and blown far for you, whispers its sadness to the rest of the crew. But the greatest presence that your tears can afford is a friend you've always known, a friend called the Lord. For his love he is crushed, his child is torn. How could other boys do this out of mere scorn? Beautiful child dragged through the street, beaten, then tied, and then left to meet his doom, his own end, an unwillful martyr, made unable to fight and then beaten harder. But beautiful boy, why do you cry? Your friends, your supporters, the numbers are high. But the darkness comes too. It marches in hate. To spew forth its venom, it can't even wait. They scream and they lie till their faces are red, as you lay there in anguish on your last bed. Their signs and their slogans, freedom with support, to keep you from freedoms, deciding whom you can court. It's vile, it's wicked, then there's this drag. You've had enough torture without the word fag. Fear not, dear, sweet boy, there are many who fight for you. As there are those who have hate, there are those with love too. Amazing, great people who have put on these wings to make an actual wall to shield your family from the stings, the hatred, the anger, the reverend that fights, held back by these angels, these people in tights. God doesn't hate fags, he loves us all. There's love and there's hate, but none you can see. But you've made an impact on thousands, made an impact on me. You started a movement that you never will see because of hatred and murder fueled by bigotry. I think that I love you, but I'll never know. Gay, straight, or friendship, what was once unlikely, now impossible. Beautiful boy, I know why you cry. Thick, warm blood covering every inch of your face, I know why you cry. Your body destroyed, cracked bones puncturing through flesh, I know why you cry. Tied to a fence, bloodied hands in makeshift handcuffs, tears streaming, mixing with blood, I know why you cry. Left alone in the bitter cold to suffer through the night, when hitting your face more bluntly than the butt of the pistol that struck you repeatedly, I know why you cry. More bitterly than the fist that kissed your cheek and ravaged your body for seemingly an eternity with no remorse, unprovoked, fueled by malice, I know why you cry. Yes, dear, sweet, beautiful boy, I know why you cried. You were born with these feelings, and for that, you have died. Thank you. Our next reader will be Adam Sachs.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adam. I'm a graduate student, a PhD student here at Penn. Thank you, Davy, for setting this all up, and thank you everyone for being here. I've selected 3 poems, short poems, by poets who I think are very wonderful and very powerful. So I hope you see that too. The first poem is by W.S. Merwin, and it's entitled The Fence. This was what the West was won for, and this was the way it was won. But things were not like the old days. No Indians left to shoot at, a long time since the last bounties on their kind, no more wolves to hang and stand next to for the picture, nothing left by the time they had their first guns. But the little things running in front of them maybe, a hawk for the barn door if they were lucky, or a coyote to string up on the barbed wire fence, which was what the fences were for. But they were growing up thinking there had to be something better. It was time to find somebody like themselves, but different, in a way they could give a name to, point at, make fun of, and frighten, somebody who would understand why it was happening to him when he was tied to the barbed wire, which was what the fence was there for, and when he was beaten until they thought it was time to leave him, and they drove away, growing up. The second poem is by Maggie Nelson, and it's entitled For Matthew Shepard. Quiet person, quiet afternoon, all that sky, too much to hold in the mind, how long it went on, what words were said, when did they know they would leave him for dead? What can possibly come next? Elegy, outrage, the eclipse of forgiveness, small cleansing thing falling from an eye. As night grew, even the sky wanted to cry. And the last poem I'll be reading is by Peter Gizzi. It's entitled Caption. One less body is lost in snow. The dying one, in time, becomes a landscape. Do you remember how it came about? Snow, unlike glass, glass, unlike a corpse, moon, unlike a torso, boldly colored in with bark, with slate, with soil breaking up in the furrows of another eroding shape, or a severed line, bringing us together for the first time. March, unlike spring, or an almanac out of date, nomenclature, everywhere, evidence, perception, conclusion, unlike a dull pool on a brown tire track. Earlier, I said landscape. How did it come about? Grief, unlike truth, truth, unlike snow, body, unlike its outline. Thank you. Our next reader, and I believe our final reader, is David Glassman.
Hi, my name is David Glassman. I have 2 poems to read today. The first poem is entitled Pin Dots, and that is by Star Black. Names with less syllables than mine will lift cracked stairwells from tenements and broom them off, add a balcony or 2 for flimsy clothespins only the well-fared use, and replace them while the National Endowment's money men, without saying anything aloud, baseball bat, more gays, censor snipping, naughty bedrooms, bad art. Nothing is ever exact. Animals are not precise, caved in clans on the sheet-rocked millenniums, huddled above small, hungry flames in furs of the sacrificed. We firefly through a multitude of these hollows, bringing tiny illuminations that never stay in one cave long enough to die, but pass in a bleariness that alerts the eye. And the second poem is entitled Sonnet for Matthew, and the poet is V. Barnhart. It is no consolation that you will never have to wait for him to call, and that when he does call, because he always does eventually, there will be no one else to answer the phone. For you, there will be no nights after dinner, dancing to some radio station, laughing and confused, wildly uncomfortable, because you're both leading and then both following until you both stand still and listen. You will never have to put away his boots and his shoes and wash the dishes, swearing that you're going to kiss his ass, only to find that he made the bed. You won't gently push him in the parking lot until it turns into pretend kung fu fighting, and then somebody slaps somebody too hard up against the head, and an angry, laughing chase leads you through a park where it ends with a kiss behind a tree. His dog will never bite you because she's jealous. You won't stand side by side, bare-chested, looking into the same mirror, both thinking how much you hate shaving, both not shaving for a week. You will never have to sit around, bored and restless, wondering if you're really loved. You won't have those years of wondering together about the crushing heartbreak of vanity and all the years of narcissism that allowed for the peaceful smile to engage your face as you remove one of his own gray hairs from the lapel of his jacket. You will never have memories of that time in Mexico. You will never remember for the rest of your life, of which you have none, the way your eyes really did meet that night, December 13th, 1,000,000 years ago. So I promise you, at least once in the seconds before I scream out through a rasping, stifled choke, and before he utters that lowest earth-touching moan, that I will think of you, Matthew, and pray for safe passage back into gayness in your next life. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our readers. Thank you to our sponsors, the Writers House, GSWS, and the LGBT Center. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to Zach for setting up the tech and for Anthony for filming. Please stick around, visit with folks. If you'd like the poem someone read, tell them. Thanks again.